You are already on the path of awakening. It's time to transition from a life of struggle to a life of play. It's time to discover your autonomy, agency, sovereignty, and potency. Welcome to Reveal the Game of Life.
Welcome back to Reveal the Game of Life, the show where we take big, galaxy-sized concepts about consciousness and we break them down into bite-sized pieces that you can understand and apply to your daily life. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Tomaso, and I'm here with your other host,
Molly Mandelberg.
Bum, 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 bum. And today we're going to be talking about certainty and clarity. These are two things that, especially if you're on a spiritual path that is destabilizing you, is something that you maybe seek, that you maybe think you need. I know that in the process of working through some kind of trigger or some kind of what we call a boss fight in our game, there is a desire for clarity. Why is this happening to me? And once I understand why, then I can let it go, or then I can resolve this, that I can move through it. And I'm here to say that that perspective might not be serving you. And the search for clarity might be actually the thing that is slowing your process down. Molly, you are a person who has a lot of uncertainty in your life. You sort of like live through that and like van life and travel around. I in some ways like I want more of that. I'm going to be traveling soon. In about 6 days, I'm going to uproot my entire life and go to Portugal for 3 months. And then I'm going to go back to the mainland and get a car and drive around with my girlfriend, finding a new place to live. It's like nonstop uncertainty for 6 months at least. And I'm a bit terrified because I've never lived like this. And so I'm curious how you've integrated that in your life and, what lessons can be learned.
Yeah, I mean, first off, it is uncomfortable. And as with anything, the more you do something uncomfortable, the more it becomes part of your comfort zone. So it's like a muscle that you stretch. I still am and have since I was like 22. If I travel abroad by myself, I plan the first 2 or 3 nights at a hostel or a hotel or a guest house or something. And then I don't book the rest of that trip. Like I flew to Southeast Asia for 80 days by myself. And I had the first 3 nights planned and that's it. I didn't know anything else about where I was going to go or what I was going to do. And for me, that was because I didn't know until I got there what was good. And I didn't want to do a bunch of research and then set plans and then feel like pulled energetically in a new direction and have to cancel plans or reorganize things. So for me, it is more freeing to be able to choose things in the moment and to be able to follow the energy and to be able to ask for suggestions and like get curious and move around in that way. In traveling van life in the country, I don't even like to tell someone I love that I'm coming to their town until like a day before because I might change my mind. I often wake up and think I'm going to head north and then decide to head south or vice versa. And so if I've put, if I tell somebody I'm coming, suddenly there's this expectation on me and that expectation weighs me down. And suddenly I feel like my like infinite possibilities of choices have been limited because now I have to go in the direction I told that person I'd go or they're going to be disappointed. So for anyone who loves me out there, who likes me to come and visit, I'm sorry. That's why I do that. I'm not always sure which way I want to go. And I like to have that choice for as long as possible. And sometimes I just don't feel like seeing anyone for a while because I do a lot of going and visiting. And sometimes I just need to be in my own space. But to circle back to the clarity thing or to the certainty thing, for me, it's a little bit of a high to not know. It's also a little bit of a high to get to figure it out. And I learned that when I was really young and started traveling alone, that the power and the empowerment that I get from having unknowns and then being the cause of discovery, being the reason I figure something out or learn how to do something or get somewhere new or approach a new group of people and like figure out how to talk to them, like the empowerment I get from that far exceeds any other experiences I've had in my life as far as feeling confident, feeling capable, feeling like I am my whole self in this moment. And so I got kind of hooked on that when I was young and I just haven't let it go. That feeling of I can figure this out if I can figure this out, I can do anything. So I'm gonna figure this out. And then boom, I can do anything is really fun. I also want to bring it back to business because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, coaches, holistic practitioners. And one of the things when you're starting a business is the idea of your niche and the need to get clear on it and get specific about it, because all the marketing gurus are telling you that's what's required to succeed. And that's dramatic and it's uncomfortable, because how can you be clear on something that you don't know yet? It's an uncertainty, it's an unknown. And what I did, I was one of those stereotypical niche switchers my first 2 years in business. I was trying everything, which is why I got good at what I do now. But when I would choose a new direction, I would feel myself being pulled towards a new niche, whether that was from hypnotherapy to coaching, from coaching about money mindset to coaching about relationships to coaching about finding your purpose to, coaching about how to do business. Every time I would change that focus, I would not wait to or wonder, is this right? Is this good? I would attack it. I would like gung ho chase it. I would broadcast about it. I would write copy about it. I would claim it as, this is good enough for me for now. I'm fucking going there. Let me see what it's like. Because I wanted the experience. And what I learned from that is that clarity comes from the exploration. It doesn't come from sitting and trying to cognate your way to the right answer. So we try to intellectualize in our business. We try to intellectualize in our life. Oh, if I plan all these steps clearly enough, then when I start walking them, it's already figured out. I've already got my way. I'm going to go this direction. It's going to work out. But you don't actually know what it feels like to serve those people. You don't actually know what it feels like to stand in that new city or that town that you might want to live in until you go and do it. So it's like a leap of faith to say, I'm unclear, I'm uncertain. I'm going to go put my physical body there, or I'm going to go put my energy into that experience and try it fully on and see, what does it actually feel like? Does my body actually want to be in this place on the earth? Or do I actually want to sit and talk to this kind of person for the next 3 to 5 to 20 years of my life? Is it fun? Is it fulfilling? Is it engaging? Does it turn my lights on? And if not, then okay, that's really good feedback. I'm glad I went in that direction and tried it so that I could figure out what the next thing to try is. And I think part of that is we're afraid that other people will see us as a failure if we change our minds, if we change direction, if we choose a town and then move again. People are going to think, oh, well, you failed in that town, so you have to go try something new, or, you were too uncomfortable, or you couldn't make it there, so you had to move again. No one actually cares what you're doing. No one's actually judging you as much as you're judging yourself. So we need, I think, to give ourselves permission to be in that unknown and that uncomfortable place, to get curious, to follow the uncertain path until we discover something that really turns us on, that really lights us up, whether that's a place to be in the world or an adventure to have, or whether that's a business that you're following and creating in your life.
Yeah, I'm just curious about, was it always like that for you? Like, did you always have this, like you could call it getting high on the uncertainty of it?
I still get scared. I remember, a couple of years ago, I flew to Thailand again by myself, and I'm still scared before I go do something big like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was hearing everything you were saying, my perspective is like almost the exact opposite, in that, like you said, that cognation. So cognation brings certainty, or you think it does. That's the trap, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, if I can just think 10 steps ahead of where this is going to go, then I will never fall into a situation I'm unprepared for. And then I will be able to control, the elements of my life, which is all a lie. In fact, it just creates more tension because you get more and more controlling the more things seem to be slipping away. Whereas it's much easier, well, maybe not emotionally easy, but I'd say easy in the long run, more in flow with life in the universe, to accept the underlying uncertainty of reality and just move forward with it. And especially on the spiritual path, because where I got stuck for a long time is making this whole thing an intellectual exercise. I was trying to cognate my way to enlightenment, and it just didn't work. Like, nothing about it worked. again, conceptually, I got it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I even got the idea of you're not supposed to do this, but I still couldn't get out of my head. Like enjoy the journey only made sense as a concept. I couldn't actually get experientially into like what that means versus focus on the destination or have the trust to strike out into the unknown and have that feeling of I can figure this out and like that get excited about that. Ooh, what happens when I figure this out? And what's ironic is that, like you said, those things were precursor to like some of the best things that happened in your life. And me too. Like when I got in situations where I didn't plan, then serendipity happens. You meet a person, they help you out of a situation. You find a restaurant you've never been to. Like there's all these things that can happen from a place of like openness and expansion. And so few things can happen from a place of I've already got this planned out. Like you can execute your plan, which only feels so good. You can not execute your plan, which probably feels bad, but you definitely don't get to access those unpredictable, nonlinear, magical experiences, or at least they're less likely.
Yeah. It's like when you've already created the map for where you're going, there nothing can join it or like surprise you. And it's those moments of collaboration or accidental like synchronicity and surprise that makes the whole journey pivot and turn and become this like Wonderland experience.
And that's like, I think that's why so many people like to travel. And that's why I'm going to be traveling, because there's that part of me that craves that. I think there's a part of me, and this is like maybe an irreconcilable thing, that craves like that experience, but with more certainty that it's going to happen. This is like going to an amusement park. You go on a roller coaster and there's unpredictability, but you're on a track and you know what the track is and you get on it and you know what kind of ride it's going to be beforehand. Maybe you've read reviews about it. Like there's ways to like hedge how uncomfortable the uncertainty gets while still feeling the uncertainty. This is also like watching movies and stuff. And I think the framework, I think this is sort of underneath why different people say if you view life as a game, or if you view it as a movie, an all immersive movie, then you can sort of have that perspective that the uncertainty is fun, not life threatening, but it's hard to do that because the range of human experience is like so much more vast than a movie or an amusement park that it's hard to in the moment say, yes, this is still good. And it's okay that I don't know. It's okay that I don't have clarity, and it's fine. I can trust. Really, I guess this is really about trusting. It's a trust exercise.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it right there. It's okay that I don't know right now. That's an affirmation to use in those moments of uncertainty. And that's like what we said, what you just discovered through the boss fight thing. Again, we did talk about the boss fight in our live experience games that we created with people. The uncertainty is okay. It's okay to not know the entire timeline of this pattern in your life. Right. It's okay to be in the thick of the energy that's coming up for you right now without necessarily being fully equipped to quantify it in this moment or qualify it or decide what it is and why it's here and what it means for you. And it's okay to ride through that energy and be with it without all the understanding and awareness. And that actually might make the whole experience of getting through it a lot faster and easier.
When I have an issue with somebody, I'm used to, before I would avoid talking to them about it, then I would resent them and then a relationship would dissolve. So then I was like, well, that's not great. So then I started recognizing when some kind of tension was rising up, and I started the habit of immediately asking them what's behind that. So then it's kind of like over communicating. What did you mean by that? Are we cool? Like, is this kind of like constant checking in? And that served me up until now. But this new revelation that happened during that boss fight was, what if I don't have to know? What if it doesn't matter? Like, if that person felt this way about me or not? Like, what if I don't actually have to unpack it or investigate it further? How has my experience changed if I could simply just experience that discomfort and let it go and move on? And what was interesting is I did that. I basically, if you think of doing this work that we talk about, this like spiritual process, as having multiple layers. There's like the sort of spiritual layer that like you can't really feel, but then you feel it through your emotions, your like body sensation, and then you have your mental experience, like your interpretation of what it is, right? If you could just take the interpretation piece out and just feel the body emotional piece, how much faster is that? You don't have to put a puzzle together. You don't have to create a story and then uncreate a story. You don't have to decide what story it is. You don't have to spend time doing any of that. So I did that. Instead, I said, okay, what if, because I tried to get clarity and it wasn't coming. And I was like, all right, usually at this point in the process, I have clarity. So what's going on? You know? And I was like open to it. And then the clarity that came through was, you don't need clarity, which is what a meta lesson, right? And then I said, okay, I'm going to try not trying to understand this and just let it go. And then the next time I talked to that person, everything was different without ever talking. Like in the past, this same person, we would talk for hours about, this is my perspective, this is what you think, and this is my story of how I get triggered by these things. And like we had done that. And this time I was like, I just don't want to do that again. Like I know I can do it, but it just doesn't feel alive for me to do it. Like that's old news. And so let me try something different.
And what did that look like in practice? Okay, body, you're having this sensation. Okay, I acknowledge that.
Yeah. So I think there was a bit of the mental work still done because there was me trying to find the clarity. So what is this about? What could be different about it? How could I see it differently? Similar to like our lenses episode, we talk about like interesting point of view. I have that point of view, and then we jump to another point of view and say, well, it could mean this, it could mean that. But none of those were emotionally satisfying. And usually I get to something that's emotionally satisfying. I go, okay, I'm going to choose to see it as this after letting go of the energy that was triggering. So there, yes, you're right. There is body emotional work of like letting that energy go and expressing it in some way. And then there's the mental work of what did this mean? You know, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? What's the most empowering perspective? But the most empowering perspective is don't do this right now. Don't do this mental stuff right now. Just let it be. Let yourself be uncertain and uncomfortable. Because the thing is it didn't feel resolved. Usually I need there to be a reason to feel resolved. And so I don't let myself feel resolved in it now without coming up with a reason. And so I said, what if I didn't need a reason? What if I could just feel good about it now? Or what if I didn't even need to feel good about it now and I could just let it go?
Yeah. And I know, I mean, this sounds rad. And I also feel like if we can choose that all the time, great. And there also is still value in looking at the angles and looking at the points of view and the lenses. And the secondary gains that may be part of the emotional turmoil from this. And
yeah, you know. I mean, the mental world is like, I love it, right? It's my sandbox that I play in. And it's not to diminish the value of gaining clarity or telling an empowering story. It's more to say that it's not necessary for this work to happen.
Right. And that's a breakthrough to recognize that. Yeah. And I kind of had an awareness of that this weekend too, of a lot of the suffering is the story in the head that we're telling ourselves. And we can just as easily choose to give that story up and be an allowance. And then it's fucking different.
So this is why a long time ago, I talked about how I was like, really angry about naturals. Like they really annoyed me. Things just seem to work out. They seem to have charmed lives. They seem to get this stuff at an intuitive level, but not even be able to explain it. So I would say, how do you do what you do? And they'd be like, I don't know. I just think about something and then it happens. You know, like that kind of stuff. Or I don't even do that. Like I just show up and it happens. It just happens. Right. And I would be like so frustrated because I'm like, that if it was that easy, then I would be doing it too, but it's not. So what is the secret? What is the thing you're holding on to or that you don't understand? And the fact that they didn't even understand why it was working made me angrier because like I said, I had all the mental models in my head about how it works. So why do I know everything? Why have I read all the books and know everything about this and it works for you and not for me? And what they never even went through the process of maybe I don't need to know. Their spiritual instrument was already pure or something. I'm not sure what, like, everybody's got their own journey, right? So there's no like one size fits all story or interpretation of why it worked for them and not for you.
Yeah,
But now that's another understanding, another way of seeing how a natural works.
I like that idea of a natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all naturals is the thing. And then our brain conditions us
Right. And that's probably the
to
main
be
thing, is that
unnatural.
you have such a not hyperactive. That sounds kind of negative. You have such a
Galaxy brain.
profound intellectual capacity that of course your brain got in your
Oh,
way.
thank you.
Of course your brain got in your way, because that's the thing that stops the flow, that sort of plugs the bottle.
So going back to the uncertainty thing, I wanted to ask you, when you're thinking about going on a trip and you plan the first 3 days
Yeah.
and nothing else, what do thoughts come up that are like, oh no, what if I don't find an Airbnb? What if I don't find a place to stay? What if I don't like it? What if I can't get the right research? Like, do these doubts crop up? And if so, what do you do about them?
For me, it's not so much the specifics of like, what if I don't find a place to stay, or like usually it's just me being like, are you fucking crazy? Are you really doing this? Like, again? But on the other hand, I have absolute trust that I'm not going to be stranded on the street. And if I am, like, I'll find a way through it. Yeah.
In your mind, what do you do when the I'm fucking crazy thought comes
Yeah.
up?
I breathe. I
Yeah,
breathe through it and think, I think about the desire for the adventure and let that excitement and enthusiasm supersede the are you fucking crazy?
gotcha.
Yeah, because maybe I'm a little crazy. I
Right.
mean, you kind of got to be.
Yeah. Yes, and right.
Yes, and yeah, because it's the same thing in business. Are you willing to have your excitement for the difference you could make on this planet be greater than your fear of being visible or actually having to do the work?
Yeah.
And if you're willing to let that excitement be bigger than that fear, then you're unstoppable. And that doesn't mean the fear doesn't still show up. The fear
Right.
might come and say, hi, you're crazy. You might say, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it's so interesting because in the business world there is this concept of like people wanting more certainty. So one of my jobs I do is consulting, and this is what we track. The currency is certainty. This framework will give you more certainty that this thing will work.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that like that is an intellectual game really only. You have to kind of like invest it with trust and open to the spiritual path that you're on to catalyze that vehicle. And what's interesting is that for the most part, that is not something talked about in consulting. Consulting is all about numbers and people. We talk about emotions, but only in that we can quantify and manipulate people, which is not to say negative, right? To nudge their behavior. Manipulation can be good or bad. That's a whole different topic. But it's interesting because the whole financial world is built on certainty, which is impossible. Like people pay for more certainty, which maybe they'll get.
And then at the same time, I mean, the stock market is this fluctuating, like batshit crazy thing. And, a lot of people who are investing are just betting on that. That's crazy. Maybe certainty is actually a myth, and everywhere we've been programmed to crave it or seek it or like stop ourselves until we think we have some of it. Would we be willing to give that up? What would life be like if we were willing to get curious and give up the need for certainty?
Yeah, if you didn't need to be certain what's possible for you in your life.
And if you knew you couldn't lose, what would you choose next? Yeah. Because even when things do go wrong, I mean, I've had crazy experiences in traveling. I've been robbed. I've been, my dog was attacked by a bobcat. I mean, I've had wild experiences in this world. And what if none of it's wrong? Like, if your greatest fear is you're going to get mugged, or something weird is going to happen in some country, or you're going to broadcast your business and someone's going to think you're a fool. Like, what if that's not wrong? What if that's not bad? What if the thing you're really afraid of is actually, if it came and happened to you, it wouldn't end you. It wouldn't actually ruin your life. It wouldn't actually make you less than. And would you be
Right.
willing to give up the weight that that fear might hold over you for
Right.
the potential lesson or beauty that moving through that fear or even experiencing that trauma or crazy thing might create for you?
Yeah, those are great questions. It's an uncomfortable truth that discomfort is the spiritual path, not comfort,
Yeah,
right? And
I love
people,
those memes too. There's so many good memes about that.
yeah, well, but so many people are like, because they sell you comfort. People don't buy discomfort, right?
Mm,
So the financial incentive is to be like, it's going to be great. You're going to be evolved. You're going to walk through the world and you're going to be charmed and everything's going to go your way. And even in our marketing, right? Experience more
yeah,
ease and
more
flow.
ease. Yeah.
Play your life like it's a game. But the thing that's, yes, and as you level up yourself, you level up your capacity for discomfort. That's really what
Yeah.
it is.
And that's sort of the whole point is when you move through discomfort and you realize it does not break you, it actually gives you access to what you desire. That's where ease comes from.
You said it so well, but I like want you to say it again in another way because that was
Okay.
amazing.
So you're afraid of your life being hard and challenging. You want ease. If we move into the discomfort and build our capacity for that discomfort and learn what is there for us through it, the other side of that is ease. And ease, like the motto of Access Consciousness, all of life comes to you with ease, joy, and glory. That doesn't mean everything that comes to you is good. It doesn't mean everything that comes to you is right and perfect and comfy. It
Yeah.
means that everything that comes is ease and joy and glory. It can be. So when your car breaks down, there can be ease and joy and glory. It's uncomfortable. It's stressful. It's messy. You have to make things happen that you didn't want to deal with today. But that can be done from a place of ease and joy and glory instead of the trauma and the drama and the thing. It doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable all the time.
Yeah. What if ease and comfort are not the same thing? What if you can be experiencing ease and discomfort at the same time?
My friend Holly Priestley, who has a podcast called Deliberate Living, she just made a great post about ease versus easy this week. Shout out to Holly.
Oh,
Shout out to
nice.
Holly and her. Want to
Yeah.
wrap it up in a nice little bow?
Yeah. Well, I honestly think that's really it, is changing your mindset about what you need to grow. Like, do you need certainty? And why would you need certainty? Do you need it to gain more ease? Can you have ease without certainty? Not necessarily to wrap it in a bow, but to open a bigger world of exploration is, I think, the world is going through this collective uneasiness and discomfort because for many of us, we've been sort of living in not a bubble, maybe a bubble of like, things aren't going to go wrong. Generally speaking, like, things are going to get better over time. Things are going to be more easy and more comfortable for more people. And in the past few years, that has been really disrupted. It's like, actually, in the future, things get much more uncomfortable, much more often. And if we're not ready for that, a lot of people want there to be like a return to normalcy, which is really a return to ease and comfort and what they know. That's not going to happen. Yeah. And so the more that we develop this capacity in ourselves, the more that we will be able to create, regardless of circumstances, what we want.
Yeah. And I guess what I would want to invite people to is to look at, where are you really unwilling to get uncomfortable right now? Where are you looking for clarity before you're willing to act? And what is the next leap of faith for you? Is it an adventure? Is it showing up in a different way in your life? Is it having a hard conversation you've been avoiding? Like, what is that discomfort or uncertain growing edge that you could leap towards and see what that creates in your life?
What's showing up for you right now to engage with these questions?
Sweet. Well, as always, take what works for you and leave the rest. If you know somebody who's in an uncertain time right now, please forward this episode to them. Hopefully they dig it. If you're listening to us for the first time, please click subscribe. Stick around. We've got more fun stuff coming, and there's a lot of episodes in the treasure trove if you want to go back through the time portal. and catch some of that stuff. And we will catch you next week for another episode of Reveal the Game of Life. Please go to revealthegameoflife.com if you want to support this show. And yeah, we love feedback. So email us, find us on Instagram, message us. We want to hear from you. How are you doing? What are you curious about right now? And how do you like the show? We'll catch you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.